Hey interwebs, this is JackitK, and welcome to the Pokemon Go Fireside Chat. This is a show where I just sit back with you guys and chat about my experiences with Pokemon Go for the week, and talk about some news that's been going on. This is going to be a little bit more chilled than usual. No video clips prepared in advance. Just me just breezing through. Hopefully a short one, because it's late. Kind of just barely doing this. Like, I was so close to not doing this recording today, but tomorrow's gonna be a pretty busy day too. So I kind of wanted to make sure I got it done. So, going over the news we have first, I'd like to bring your attention to the fact that the Japan Pokemon Go event has just wrapped up this weekend. It's the thing that gave us the shiny Wingles that you may have noticed in the game. And the event has given us all the Stardust, and as chat has foretold to us, Moltres Raid Date. Now I'll get into that in a little bit, but just in case you're listening live, you still have some time to cash in on the Stardust bonuses at least. It's actually, I forgot about this detail, but it's actually times 3 Stardust for catching, not just the times 2. Times 2 for hatching Pokemon from eggs, and a guaranteed 3,000 Stardust when completing a raid battle. This is going on until September 10th. As I'm streaming it, it's about September 8th. Yeah, I play this game kind of hard. And start pieces slaps about 10 times as much as they normally do. So that would be until Monday. You still have some time to put in the Stardust grind, if that's so the case. Other news that's been going on before I get into the big elephant in the room. A minor detail that's still worth bringing up is in regards to the lucky Pokemon. Of course, having a situation where sites are taking a hard time loading that. But Professor Will has made another discovery in the nature of lucky Pokemon. Quote, 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 quote. Lucky Pokemon trades in general are even better than they were in the past. For those of you who don't know, a lucky Pokemon is when you do a trade between a user and a trader, like two people trading. You know how the trades work at this point, I assume. Oh, Alice, you're not gonna like this news about the Firebird when I get to it. Essentially, with lucky Pokemon, they updated the game so now whenever you do, I think when you trade luckies, it's guaranteed to have at least all 12 in IVs. For those who don't follow IVs, is extra stats from 0 to 15, so I believe before would be a maximum of 10, so that's good. But the good thing is, if you have Pokemon from the first couple months of the game, and you haven't gotten like 10 lucky Pokemon already, they're guaranteed to be lucky. Now, that has to be a Pokemon that you had since July 2016 or August 2016 to be guaranteed. But I do believe the odds improve the older the Pokemon is in general. And for the elephant in the room that I keep ignoring, it is in regards to Moltres Day. One of the events that we unlocked for doing global research was a day completely dedicated to raiding for the legendary Pokemon Moltres. And unfortunately for some people in the chat, day is a little bit of an exaggeration. Yeah, let's to answer that question you asked earlier. Odds are, unless you're in a really late time zone, Moltres Raid Day is over. In the Asia region, it was from 12 to 3 p.m. in their time zone. Europe and the Middle East, it was from 9 to 12 in their time zone. And in the Americas, it's from 11 to 2 p.m. in the GMT time zone. Thing is, Moltres Raid Day was only for 3 hours. So if you saw the Moltres in gyms today, odds are they're not going to be around anymore. Not all hope is lost though, because maybe someday they'll return to field research and you can do some research task and get yourself a lucky. Yeah, for me, Moltres Day ended at 5 p.m. So if you're an hour behind me, that's how late it actually is. And now I feel kind of bad. I don't know if I want to talk about my Moltres Day, because while the area I live is rural, I am fortunate enough to live within driving distance to a pretty active Pokemon Go area, at least active for my general community. Yeah. Sorry. The good news is I'm sure there'll be a Moltres some other day. Like, it may take several months, it may take a year, but eventually the Firebird will return. I feel your boat though, because I'll admit, I've been playing this game from launch, but when I did not get a Moltres right away, it took until they came out in field research for me to get a Moltres. Because I did not have access to raid groups like I do now. And of course, legendary birds were some of the first Pokemon they released in raids, so I did not get to do any Articuno raids, I did not get to do any Moltres raids until they just launched all of the legendary birds back together. Then I did a couple, but not enough to actually get them, so I feel your pain, Alice. I went a long time before getting the burbs. You just gotta believe that they'll come back someday, and you'll have your chance then. What I would I would highly recommend checking out the news app in the game. Usually when you launch it up, it gives you notifications, and I would just, whenever you get notifications of new events, I would write them down on a calendar and make notes so you can actually remember events in the future when they happen. If that sounds like too much work, I do got another recommendation. There's been an app floating around in my part of the community called Pokemon Ranger Go. You know, I'm just gonna, pardon me, but I'm just gonna double check real quick. No, it's just called Go Ranger. I believe it's available for both Android and iOS. Oh, totally. Like, this is already like third time before counting both raid and research that the legendary birds have been in rotation. Fourth, depending on your definition of rotation. They'll be back someday. I just wouldn't get your hopes up of it being anytime soon. They usually try to give some space, and if Gen 4 does come out anytime soon, I'm sure they'll want to put a lot of focus on that. But I'm sure there's going to be other fire types. If you missed out on all the fire legendaries that are out so far, A Gen 4 legendary I would keep my eyes open for is Heatran. I forget how good it's going to be in the meta, but it is a fire type that's a legendary, so that may serve you well if you're looking for a strong fire type. Alternatively, there's going to be a lot of evolutions in Gen 4 where the Pokemon will be able to compete pretty well with legendary Pokemon. There's a bit of speculation about just how good Magmortar, which is going to be an evolution to Magmar, is going to be, as well as other things. Oh, Alice, I just realized. Yeah, it's still early on in September. If you need a good fire type, do your field research. Unfortunately, Moltres already went through the field research, but there's another good legendary fire type that you can get if you do 7 field research in a row. It is of the Johto Pokemon Entei, and I think how it works on a technical level is Moltres does more damage, making it more useful. Entei is still a close competitor, and it is a bit more bulky, so if you only have one, it could serve you better than a Moltres, especially in certain situations where the Pokemon you're fighting against has a rock move, because Moltres takes extra damage from rock moves, even compared to Entei. They're both weak to rock, but because Moltres is also flying, it's extra weak to rock. In my opinion, they have their pros and cons, so it's something to look out for. So just go spin those Pokestops, and you can just, if you have an area with a lot of different Pokestops, you can just throw away tasks until you get ones that are completable. Do multiples in a day and just redeem one each day. And you should totally get at least a couple Enteis this way. I wish you best of luck with your fire Pokemon adventures, though. And with that said, it is time to move on to my personal experiences. Needless to say, I had a very good day with Pokemon Go. And I got a good haul in Moltres. I didn't really get a chance to check them all out, but I definitely got a Moltres that I can use for battling now. Before, all I had was field research, and because they're lower level, I didn't even know if it was worth powering up. You see, I've been part of every one of the Legendary Bird raid days, and it kind of shows. Articuno Day was kind of a mess, and I still got a few then. Zapdos Day is pretty good, and man, Moltres Day was pretty darn good, though I'll admit I feel a little bit guilty talking about it now, but might as well get it out of the way, so because that's part of the show. First of all, we did a lot. Unfortunately, the area that we normally play at had an IRL event going on, so it's a little harder to navigate. So essentially what we did was do all the gyms that were around the area and just saved it for second last. Technically for last, because we did like 1 or 2 in town and went over to a nearby college, and by the time we got done with that area, raid day was over. But I think I got up to 18 Moltres cost on that day. I did miss 1 or 2. No, thanks for the assurance. I think I'm just using my tiredness as an excuse to procrastinate it, though. You're fine. So, I got, out of those 18 Moltres I caught, I got 3 shinies. One that, could have sworn I had one that was in pretty good percentile, but I can't seem to recall it now. $198, and all they're in a situation where they don't have a perfect attack stat, when that is the one stat they look into most in Pokemon Go. I mean, I can't complain about the 98 because it's like a 14 attack stat, and while I think IVs can make a difference, a single point in IV can't make that much of a difference. Yeah, we got a lot of fire bursts just playing the game. I do gotta admit, it did take driving. I will admit that. Pretty much, like, especially in a suburban area like I live in, the only way you're gonna get this many raids done is if you drive from raid to raid. And I specifically made a slower group because there's a group in town that's even more hardcore than us, and a lot of times they're just raiding for that perfect Moltres or the shiny. And I hear that I don't know for sure, but I hear they just run from each of the Moltres and attempt to get as many as possible just to get the experience, the items, and maybe a really good one. But I'm getting off tangent. Point being, I got a lot of stuff that I'm content with using. It's pretty amazing that those two that were above the 98, for one of the areas that we played at, for that specific incident that we were in that area, they were weather boosted. It happened to be windy, so the level jumped from the typical level 20 it is to level 25. And this is a pretty good weather boosted one to get. Granted, I'm not sure if I'm going to actually power it up because I got the 98. The one that's perfect in everything except for that attack stat that I've been craving so much. But it is certainly something to look for me to look forward to. It is pretty drastic to go from these two Moltreses from field research. Probably had more because I'm pretty consistent with doing my research every day, but I probably just transferred them already for the candy. Go from just working with that to all of this. I'm really glad I waited to power up my research task Pokemon. Trying to remember what else happened. And I was going to say I can't, but that's a lie. Something very special happened just the other day. Those who may be a parent and observant and here for a couple streams may have noticed that I was sitting at level 39. They may notice that level 39 is gone and has been replaced with a level 40. Yeah, I reached the peak level. I've got level 40 over this weekend. The day right before Moltres Raid Day. Wonderful and ironic at the same time, because now that experience that I got was pointless. For now, at least. I still did my lucky eggs and all that for it, just because I had leftover lucky eggs from boxes. And the game just gives you a whole ton of lucky eggs when you reach level 40, because it's cruel like that. But there is speculation, and I think it's been confirmed in interviews, that eventually they're going to increase the level cap. So it's probably not going to be a total waste. And honestly, I'm fine. There are people who just grind for experience, and once they reach level 40, just count how much experience they earn. I don't find myself that kind of player, so I'm just gonna use the fact that I maxed out my level to actually play the game at a slower pace, maybe. I get the feeling not too much will change, because there's always reason to crave more and more Stardust in this game. But I think it's going to open up me to do a bit be a bit more experimental with how I play the game. Yeah, where's my start? There it is. Like, I'll admit I was up to 1,000,000 again on Friday when I was walking around the college after work. I bumped it down to about the range I'm at now. But I did a trade that cost 80,000 Stardust. So being back at the range I was before I started the raid day, it was actually pretty significant in my eyes because that trade was expensive. And that trade was for something that I was lacking. Something I was missing for a very long time. And it is this good boy, girl, Shiny Flareon. Here's the story on that though. For those of you who weren't here for when I had EV Community Day, I did a good job in EV Community Day. I was out there both days. I'll admit I kind of left an hour early on Saturday, but I was there for the full grind on Sunday. Caught myself a lot of EVs. And I evolved a lot of EVs. As you may see, there's a lot of evolved EVs and not a lot of Flareons. For those listening home, Alice just asked again how much Stardust it costs to trade a special Pokemon. The most accurate answer is it depends. There's two sets of factors that determine Stardust cost. One of them is your friendship level with the trader, and the other one fluctuates depending on the trade. Shiny and legendary Pokemon are the most expensive types of trades, though. I think it normally costs 1,000,000 Stardust to trade 2 legendaries and therefore trade 2 shinies that you don't already have. That cost does go down significantly if both of you have that exact shiny or legendary Pokemon already. I forget the amount. All I know is that when you max up the Ultra Friends, which I believe is the 3rd and currently the highest rank you can have with someone. Hopefully Dolby doesn't mind if I use him as an example. When you have your hearts here, basically when you interact with someone once, whether it be giving them a gift, battling or trading with them, you become good friends and you can trade. You can actually do special trades to begin with. After, I believe, a week or so, you become great friends with them, and you start to get a discount on Stardust for the trades. Ultra Friends, I believe, takes it takes a while. Like maybe 30 or 90 days. I wish I remembered. No, I think 90 days is for the final rank, which is Best Friends. Point being, that Flareon trade cost me 80,000 Stardust, and it actually cost both of us 80,000 Stardust because neither of us had the shinies we were trading for, and we were Ultra Friends. So that trade could have been a lot more expensive. But I'm just glad I finally got all 5 of the shiny Eevees, and I did not have to worry about evolving any more Eevees and just not having any shiny Eevees left over for things in the future. because I was trying to get one single Flareon. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, I guess I'll just humble brag about my item haul. Had to throw away a lot of potions revives to keep up with it, but got more fast TMs than I know what to do with, because I must have had like 8 or so before doing raids today, and problem with fast TMs is there's just not too much to use them on. But I don't like throwing them out because it's a free exclusive item, or just really rare otherwise. So it feels like throwing out money. Charge TMs I've been going through like hot cakes though, so I can safely say that these 6 charge TMs were ones that I got from the raid day, and I know it shows that I have 64 rare candies, but I'm pretty sure I got even more than that, because I must have dumped at least 20 on Mewtwo just to keep my inventory down. I didn't actually power it up yet, but I'm lucky enough to have access to an EX raid, so I know I can have opportunities to get Mewtwo in the future. And I'll just leave it at that. Wait, is that it for items? Yeah, I believe it is. I mean, unless you want to count all the golden raspberries, but golden raspberries are so frequent from raids these days, I don't even want to count that. So, between all the Moltres candies I got from the raids and the rare candies I got from raids, I'm in a pretty spot to power up a Moltres to the level I want. I think that pretty much covers all the experiences I have to share from today. If there's anything older than that, I'm just gonna have to forget it, because I'm starting to feel over-talked in the old voice maker. But if I can think of some closing advice to go on off the top of my head, I do want to do so. Guess one thing to note is, if you ever do get a chance to raid for a Moltres in the future, rock types are your friends. Oh, the golden raspberries? Because you're pretty much guaranteed to get at least a couple golden raspberries whenever you raid these days. Even if it's a level 1 raid, which pretty much anyone can do, you're guaranteed to get at least a couple golden raspberries from that. It is nice. It's better than the opposite that we used to have, where you would never have enough golden raspberries to even use on the raid boss. So I'm glad that the game at least guarantees you something that you can't normally get out of raid. Especially because in the old days, it was possible to get nothing but potions and revives from a single raid, and that really sucked. That's what I was gonna say though. If you ever raid a Moltres in the future, rock types are your best friends. Especially if they got rock fast move and a rock quick move. Obviously, the most powerful thing to use against a Moltres is a Tyranitar that knows both Smackdown and Stone Edge. Unfortunately, unless you were out really collecting Larvatars during Larvitar Community Day, you may not have Smackdown. It's impossible to get now. It was a legacy move that you could only get during Community Day. But if you did get one, it's definitely worth hanging on to, even if it's not the best one that you possibly own. Smackdown just makes Tyranitar that good of a rock attacker. If you don't got a Tyranitar with those standards, your next best option is Golem. And it's a lot more common of a Pokemon than Tyranitar, so I actually would recommend it for people who weren't around for community days. Actually, it's got a bit more endurance, so if you're tough in luck in finding potions in that, you can get a lot more out of a golem than Trantor. But in this game, the whole raid game relies more on how much damage you can do in a set period of time than how long you can last. So Trantor is the best, but obviously not easily accessible for everyone. Golem is a bit more easily accessible. Well, if you don't have either of those, the good news is those low-end eggs that come around, they can now have a low-end Geodudes. And while in a lot of situations it's not quite as good as the other variant, I think against Moltres, well, I guess my point being is you can still get double rock moves on a lone golem, so that works out too. You aren't completely out of luck though if you don't have either of those. Obviously, your next best. Well, I keep saying obviously, I gotta stop doing that. If you happen to do a Regirock raid, and technically they're still around, Regirock is not usually a great Pokemon, but since it's a rock legendary type, it was useful for Moltres raid days to some degree. If you got yourself Lunatone or Solrock, that's a fair option too. Think like even Sudowoodo was recommended on the raid guide if you were fighting in a type of water that boosted rock type moves. And I'm not sure if I can really recommend the rock type besides those I listed though. Geodude is just the most accessible rock type out there, unfortunately. If you don't got rock types, your water and electric types will work alright. Obviously the big hitters like Kyogre and Gyarados work fine. I think Vaporeon is a fair substitute if you don't got anything else, because not necessarily because it's as strong as Gyarados or Kyogre, but it's really powerful for how accessible it is. Like, you shouldn't have problems finding enough EVs to evolve into a Vaporeon. And even if you don't get the Vaporeon, if you get a Jolteon, that'll work as well. And while I'm just going for recommendations, electric types, of course, if you have a Raikou or a Zapdos, those work. Out of the Pokemon that are accessible, Ampharos and Jolteon are fair, although I wouldn't consider Ampharos accessible. I'm going to take that back. I'm probably going to have to wait until Gen 4 until we get a lot of options for electric, rock, and fire types that are truly accessible, because Gen 4 evolutions really will open the door up for that. Yeah, I mean, don't worry about showing me what Pokemon you have for the best advice. What I would recommend you do, Alice, is there's a website out there called PokeBattler.com. I often rely on it myself for getting the best advice of what Pokemon to use against what raid bosses, and there are even options on there that allow you to put in a couple Pokemon you own, put in their CPs and their moves, and it'll automatically generate the type of Pokemon that you can actually use against said raid boss. And they're constantly keeping it updated, so you can constantly find the latest raid bosses that are available. I was thinking about showing you it on my phone real quick, but I've been going for a while as is. So you can just take my word for it. Just take your take your Pokemon to that site, or if you don't want to go through the trouble of putting your Pokemon in manually, you can just go to the site and it'll give you a generic list of counters against that particular raid boss. It doesn't have to even be for legendaries. You can also look up tier 1, 2, 3, and 4 to get the best idea of what Pokemon to use. With all that said, though, I've been able to keep this going a lot longer than I thought I would. It's a bit shorter for a fireside chat, but I didn't bring too much notes to prepare in advance. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in the live stream, listening on YouTube, and on the audio form once I finalize that. And I hope to see you all for the next edition. Here's the thing, I was not sure if I'm going to be able to keep up doing this live every week. You know what? Else I'll type in, if you want, I'll type in the name of the site in the chat once I finish the podcast. I'll type it into the chat for you, and you can just go to that link and bookmark it. If you search Pokemon Battler, it should probably come up in the Google search as well. Yeah. So I think I am going to cut back to every other week for live recordings of this show. But what I might do is I might do things and might record and edit it, and then just premiere it on Twitch. Good night. Yeah, before you go, recap. I think I'm going to go to every other week or once a month for live streaming, but I'll still be making these videos at least every week and just premiere them on Twitch and hang out in the chat so you guys can actually ask me questions and not worry about interrupting anything or that.